Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Think Kink. I'm Veronica Jans, founder of Desires Laid Bare, where we teach easy and fun kink classes to empowered action takers just like you. The question I get asked quite a bit is, how did you know you were kinky? I love this question because it gives people an opportunity to shift their mindset from, ooh, I'm kind of weird for liking what I like and I don't think this is supposed to be what it's like, to just accepting it for what it is. This episode is no more than just me contributing my story to the conversation to show that discovering that you're kinky and finding out as an adult or just thinking back to all the memories is no more than just part of your life journey, and it does not any way inform whether or not you are crazy or have problems or have mommy and daddy issues or whatever it is, because trust me, we all have problems. So a quick aside, the reason why I talk about people discovering kink at a young age or having memories as adults going back to when you were a child liking to inflict pain or whatnot is because people often wonder if there was something wrong with them. So for instance, I know that I have a friend who enjoys inflicting pain on his partner, and he has told me before that when he was younger, he would often freak out that maybe he was destined to become a child abuser or a partner beater, a wife beater, and so he didn't want to have kids and didn't want to have a partner because he was afraid he was going to inflict this kind of non-consensual pain on them. And fast forward to today, I think he's one of the most loving parental figures out there, and it's just a joy to watch him interact with his wife and kids. So let's dive into a little bit of my story condensed into as fast as I can make it for this episode. So I didn't discover that I was into kinky stuff until I watched a movie in 2003. And the movie is called Secretary, starring James Spader, and it was pretty much life-changing because it was such an aha, like mind-blown moment that watching this movie, watching him and Maggie Gyllenhaal interact in a dominant and submissive way and having her not know that she was submissive really opened my eyes to what submission was or what being kinky was or what BDSM was. I mean, when I was 13, this is when I watched it, I was like, I didn't know any better, but I just knew that it excited me and I couldn't really explain it. Fast forward into a few years later, being the big Harry Potter fan that I am, I read a lot of fan fiction in high school and throughout college. In addition to reading books published by authors, YA, and what have you, I read a lot of fan fiction, and I discovered a fanfic that was all about dominance and submission between the two characters, specifically Snape and Hermione for the win. I'm still team Snape and Hermione, and it was so fascinating to me because I knew that reading the story, waiting every week for a new chapter to be released, I just couldn't get enough of it. I couldn't understand why I wanted to, but I just knew that I really loved seeing myself in Hermione's position, and she was the sub and Snape was the dominant. And just the way that the story was written by a really well-read author, it just captivated me so much. And so because of The Secretary and Harry Potter's fanfic, I did a lot of research, and that's when I realized that something within the BDSM community, specifically dominance and submission, really spoke to me. And it wasn't until a couple years ago that I was just curious to see if my discovery of kink went further back than 2003. So there is a reason why Aladdin was one of my favorite movies growing up as a kid in the Disney realm. And I realized that when I was asking for my parents for Halloween costumes or when I was watching the movies, my favorite part in Aladdin was when Jasmine was captured by Jafar, and so she turned from the blue Jasmine into the red Jasmine, and she had shackles on her and she was confined in that sand timer. And I remember rewinding I kept rewinding those scenes over and over and over again because it just really spoke to me. Or another example was when I was a kid, my cousins and family members were huge Star Wars fans, and my favorite scene in the whole entire franchise at that time was when Princess Leia was captured by Jabba the Hutt and she became Slave Leia in her outfit and also in chains. And so I remember also rewinding that scene over and over and over again until the tape snapped. This is just an example of me piecing together my kink history, and it started when I was a toddler. Of course, I questioned whether or not there were things wrong with me or was my childhood insufficient in some way, but you know what? At the end of the day, I love who I am right now. I love the place I'm at, and it is what it is. And there's nothing wrong with knowing that Disney had shaped the way that my kink life had turned out. Thanks, Disney. So, that's my story in a nutshell. And like I said, I'm starting this conversation because I believe in helping the people that I tell this story to change from fear that they're weird or that their childhood was lacking or that they had mommy and daddy issues or whatever it may be, or that they're afraid that because they might be interested in kink or BDSM that they are sick in the head somehow or that something was insufficient in their life. And you know what? They're not, and you're not. So that's why I tell my story, because it changes you from a mode of reaction and fear into self-acceptance, love, introspection, and enlightenment. And that's what kink is all about, is becoming a better person in terms of growth and love in a society where there's so much hate and judgment that's being fueled left and right. My hope for you today is that through my story, you've found some aha moments in your life, or maybe you've found some self-love, peace, self-acceptance in your journey as a human being and how maybe kink has influenced that. There's nothing wrong with you. There's no need to be ashamed of what's happened. It is what it is, and I think that you're an amazing person regardless of if you're kinky or not, but to know that just because you are kinky doesn't make you any more weird or different than anyone else. So that's all I have for you this week. Stay kinky. If you enjoyed this episode, show us some love by subscribing to our channel, liking our Facebook page, signing up for our email list, and following our Instagram. You would think that being born here means I could speak